All right.
Okay, hold on, something just happened.
Hmm.
Okay, I don't know where it's recording to, but we'll find it. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for all the hiccups and all the problems that we've had getting this class reopened. We are, still doing baby steps to getting it going. Uh, um, I'm sorry that you've had to wait 12 minutes and Jeff, I'm gonna let you take it away so we can get everybody taken care of, but there will be a form inside inside the chat. It's really important that we have you fill out these forms, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with us. Let me see if I can get things straightened out right here. Trying to get my chat to move to the right spot. Get it. Chat. All right. Thank you. Thank you for attending. Hopefully you came to last week's session. I'm sure you did, but this is really an introduction to QuickBooks Online. And today we're going to be talking about dealing with customers and dealing with vendors. And so last week I showed you, so we're going back into our sample company called Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. And if I don't turn my bookmarks on, I won't be able to maneuver around. But last week, the one way of doing that is going to the pencil and just finding the things that you want on your bookmarks, my charts, my customers, and my vendors, and my bank transactions. Those are the things that I want on my bookmarks. Okay. Now, anything I see, it's got a little white symbol here on customers. If I would want a bookmark for my invoices, I could just come over here and click this little button, and then that would put invoices on my bookmarks. So now if I come down my left navigation bar and I go to sales, I can see that I have invoices and customers set up on my bookmarks. And another thing that I don't know if people are using yet, but if you want to go into your invoices, you could set up multiple tabs. Like I can go to customers and right click and say open in new tab, and it gets me a new tab going up here. So I'm going to have a tab for my customers, and then I'm going to have a tab for my invoices. And then maybe I want my bank transactions. So if I right click, I can open that in a new tab. And so that tab would get going. And then the chart of accounts. So you can either right click or you could just drag it up there. So now I've got my invoices, my customers, my bank transactions, and my chart of accounts. So that's a quick way of maneuvering around in QuickBooks, which is very nice. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat. If you want to ask a question, feel free. It's not a really large group, so if you want to just unmute yourself and just ask me out loud a question, that's fine with me also. But today we're going to sell some stuff. And so I'm going to go over here to my customers. And so I've got these customers out here. Remember last week I told you about the baby gear, and about every screen's got a baby gear, and on that baby gear is the things that you're seeing here. So if I wanted to see the address and the email, I could just turn them on. And so now everything's there, and then I just click off the baby gear and it goes away. Now, QuickBooks Online is famous for, once you set it up, you would hope it would stick, but it doesn't sometimes. And you have to go back and turn these things back on again if you want them. Same way with how many lines on when you're looking at your customers. When you're looking at your customers, it's let's see how many. It's set up for 50, and we always want it set up to see the most we can, so that we don't have to go page 1, page 2, page 3, so like that. Okay, but right now I'm going to sell something, so I'm going to go, and this is what I call doing the work. So I'm going to go up to my plus new button, And I'm going to say, well, I want to create an invoice. And we did a little bit of this last week. Does anybody have an example of something that you would like to sell that maybe you're confused about how to enter it into QuickBooks? Does anybody want to unmute themselves and just let us know? No guinea pigs?
Paintings or prints from
Say
the
what?
chat. Painting or prints.
Painting or prints. So they sell paintings. And so when you sell those paintings, are you going to get paid later, or are you getting paid right now? The minute you sell those paintings. Now,
Whitney, you can get off mute and you can talk.
yeah, anybody can unmute themselves and jump in right in here with us. But
Hey, it's Whitney.
So if I sold a painting, I would have to first decide, well, do I really want to create an invoice, or do I want to do a sales receipt? So if I go to Plus New, my choices are, do I want to do an invoice, or do I want to do a sales receipt? An invoice, you're going to get paid later. A sales receipt, you got paid right now. And so if you sold a painting, and let's just say, well, all right, well, let's just do a sales receipt. Now, if you don't need to capture the person's name, you could just drop it straight into an income account. But it's better to always get as much information as possible. So if I would get a sales receipt and I would say, Susie Jones, okay, and she's going to pay me right away, and I want to capture her information. So when I type in Susie Jones, it pops up a screen where I can get all kind of information from her. So I'm going to hit save on that. And then I'm going to say, well, what did she buy from me? And so everything that appears on an invoice or a sales receipt has to be set up in your products and services. So I'm going to set up painting. And so I haven't set that up in my products and services. So I'm going to add new painting. Okay. So now it asks me, well, what type of product or service are you setting up? Is it going to be a service or a inventory part or a non-inventory part? I hit a little bit on that last week. And so if you're not tracking inventory, which I hope you're not, I hope, because that's a whole nother can of worms. If you've got inventory, we need to talk on the phone. We need to set up a session. But if it's a thing, then I would call it a non-inventory part. I'm not keeping track of it. It's a part, it's a thing, but I'm not keeping track of how many I have. Now I can set these up in categories, which is just easy for me to find them, because when I do the drop down here in my sample company, these are the categories: design, landscaping, pest control. Let me just set up a category, and I'll call it category A. So I'm going to add A. It's a new category. I'm going to hit save. That just puts it in a certain spot when I'm looking at my products and services that I could see all the ones. And so this is the wording that's going to pop on my sales receipt: painting. Okay. Now,
May I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Hi, my name is Barbara. I have a small stationery business and I have to buy, I buy inventory two ways. One, I either buy it, like if I'm going to buy things that I'm going to sell later, like cash and carry kind of items, if I went to some kind of event and was selling my goods, or otherwise, like if I sold an invitation and then that whole order comes in, I have trouble trying to decide if it's not really, none of that's a service, but none of it is stuff, I have trouble categorizing that. So
Well,
what would you suggest?
Are you going to call that an inventory part or a non-inventory part?
I mean,
Are
I guess it's, well, I don't know
See-
when I'm going to be selling this. Say I buy, I don't know, 20 notepads, for example, different kinds of notepads. I don't know when I'm going to be selling that. It's just it's merchandise that I'm buying. Everything I buy is merchandise. And so I just don't know then.
Is it a large store? A large store?
No, it's
Okay.
tiny.
All right. I
And
think I would
yeah.
stay away from inventory then.
Uh-huh.
When you bought those 20 pads, put them
Mhm.
to cost of goods sold, put them to an
Yeah.
expense account.
Yep, yep,
Okay. And so
yep.
then at the end of the year, if you do need to say, you have some inventory in your building, you would
Uh-huh.
just do an adjusting journal entry to adjust your cost of goods sold. And basically you're just moving a figure from your cost of goods sold over to your inventory asset. Were you in last week's class?
I was.
Okay. And so there's the balance sheet and
Yep,
there's the profit and loss report.
yep.
So I want these things to hit the profit and loss report as soon as possible. So I want to go ahead and expense these things. Otherwise, when you go pay, $300 for those 20 pads or whatever, it's going to sit on an inventory asset. If you set it up as an inventory part, that's what happens is it goes and
Uh-huh.
sits on the books as an inventory asset.
Okay.
And then it knows exactly how many you bought and exactly when you sell one of them, it's going to lower your inventory
Oh
asset.
yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that. And the other question is that if so say I sell invitations, a whole invitation order, it's like $1,000 order and it's comprised of like a whole bunch of, parts of the invitation. Is that then that's just listed as a non-inventory thing? Because I think I was putting
But
these things under like service and it's not really a service, but
no,
I just didn't know what to
if
put it under.
it's a thing, it would be a non-inventory thing.
Okay. Okay.
A service is a service. A
Right.
thing is a non-inventory part. So
So
it's just like,
basically the vast majority of things are going under that category,
yes, they're either going
non-inventory.
to go into non-inventory part or service. And so
Got
in
it.
your
Okay.
business, it's all non-inventory. And
Got
so
it.
we're setting up a non-inventory item here called painting.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
And we're putting it in a category called A. And the wording that we want to pop on the sales receipt is painting, but all the different paintings might sell for different prices. So I'm not going to really key in a price, or I could key in $1 if I wanted to. But then the important thing is when I sell this one thing, this painting, where do I want to recognize that income at? It would definitely be on the P&L report as an income account. A lot of people get confused when they start thinking about items. They start thinking and want to try to use cost of goods sold. But when you're entering a sales receipt or an invoice, you're selling something. You're making money. You're not buying it. You're making money. So it's an income account. So right here, it's got the income account of services. And I don't like that because it ain't a service. So I'm going to do my drop down and see what all income accounts I have set up on my chart of accounts. And so one of them is called sales of product income. Now I can get a little more anal if I want to, and maybe I can break what I sell in my store into different subcategories. So under sales of product income, I could have a sub account called painting and then paper products. And so you could really set up a lot of sub accounts so that you could, when you run your P&L, you could see that information just plainly on your P&L. Or maybe you would rather just run a report that says sales by product. There's a report, sales by product, and you're going to see painting. You're going to see paper products. You're going to see, I don't know, what else you can sell. So I'm just going to let it hit the generic income account called sales of product income because I'm not as anal as maybe you have so many different products, you don't want to break it up in all these different categories. But I just want you to know that you could break it up into categories if you wanted to. So I'm going to say sales of product income. And then if you are in a retail store, if you're in a retail store, Barb, do you have a POS system, a point of sale system? Well,
I'm really bad. Here's the thing, and why I'm here today is that I'm really good on the income side, and I'm really bad on the expense side. And so I'm really good with making invoices and then recording them. but recording my expenses has not been good. So I'm really learning all this stuff right now.
But like
with
at
you.
the
So
end of do you have a cash register?
no.
Okay, and you don't have a point of sale system.
Okay. Oh, no, I mean, no, I guess not. I have a little like reader I could use if I needed to take credit cards, but most of the time I take payments electronically or even by a check.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Yeah, like I'm
so
really small potatoes.
when I'm setting up this painting thing, I've got to just say, well, is it a taxable thing or a non-taxable thing? And if I was just selling them one at a time, I would probably set them up as a taxable item. And so you would go, it says taxable here. If I'm using a point of sale system on a retail store is completely different. Maybe in the chat, maybe can anybody tell me like what kind of business they have so I could see what type of people are here, what kind of information maybe you want to know. Because if you're a retail store, maybe you do a daily sales receipt at the end of the day. And so you generate a report out of your POS system or out of your cash register, a Z-tape, end of the day report, and it would say exactly how much of paintings, how much I have somebody that does landscaping supplies, and so I know exactly how much mulch and how much rock and how much uh, miscellaneous and how much dirt. And so every day we do a daily sales receipt and we plug all of these on a sales receipt because I've already gotten paid, and you say exactly what you sold and how much money came in. And I also tell it what my POS system or my cash register, what the sales tax was collected. I don't let it put individually calculate the sales tax because I want to know exactly what my cash register told me. So I would create a item, I would call it a service item, and I would call it sales tax collected, and I would drop that into an other current liability account. So then when it's time to pay my sales tax to the state, all I've got to do is just empty out that sales tax liability account. It's built up. Okay. Someone says we sell bags of roasted coffee, some via POS system online, some through manual invoices. So I would imagine that you would, the manual invoices, you probably want to turn on sales tax and let it calculate the sales tax. But the things that went through your POS system, go ahead, Rachel.
She put 2 lines down that there's no tax on coffee in Pennsylvania. So
Fortunately, coffee is not taxable in Pennsylvania. Who knew? Wonder why.
Isn't that great?
I guess because it's like food, I guess, right?
Yeah. It's not brewed coffee, so there's no preparation.
If you can stay away from sales tax, great. Because sales tax is a PITA. Y'all know what PITA is? Pain in the ass. All right.
Interior.
All right. So anyway, if this painting, I'm going to go ahead and flag it as taxable. And so when I do that, I probably got to go into the sales tax module inside of QuickBooks and set up my sales tax for my county. So I'm not sure how it's going to work because I don't want to really get into all that, but let me hit save and close on that. And you'll notice that, yes, this check mark means that it is taxable. And so let's say I sold a painting for $50. It's flagged as taxable. And so down here on my sales tax in this sample company, it's set up for California, and California's rate is 8%. So 8% of $50 is $4. So this sales receipt is $54. Now with a sales receipt, you say what you did and how you got paid. So I would say the payment method was a check, and it was check number 4876. And then this is a very important part is like, do you want to drop it into undeposited funds? or do you want to drop it straight into your bank account? And that would be totally dependent on how you're taking it to the bank. When you go to the bank, are you taking that one check by itself, that $154 check by itself? Are you mobile depositing? If you're doing either one of those things, then yes, you could drop it straight into that checking account. But if you're holding that check and going to put some more checks with it to go to the bank, you would want to drop it into undeposited funds. So when I do my drop down, I can see some more assets, and one of them is called undeposited funds. In QuickBooks, sometimes they call this payments to deposit. So you would want to drop it into this payments to deposit or undeposited funds. So it's still just sitting on your desk. So when I hit save and close, it's sitting out on the chart of accounts in this category called undeposited funds. And so now I've got to go take it to the bank. So I've got to go do some more work. So I'm going to go to plus new. I have created a sales receipt. So now I'm ready to take it to the bank. I'm ready to do a bank deposit. Now on an invoice, you would create an invoice. You use those same products and services. You know, they're going to pay me later. They said they want that painting, but they're going to pay me later. So then you would create an invoice, and then at some point when that check came in, you would hit receive payment. And it's just like on the sales receipt. When I hit receive payment, am I going to drop it into undeposited funds, or am I going to drop it straight into the bank account? So
Bank account.
and the reason that's so important is because when those deposits are made at the bank, the next day it's going to come feeding through your bank transactions. It's going to come feeding into QuickBooks. And it's not going to say, I see a match if you've dropped it into the register for the wrong amount when you should have ran it through undeposited funds, then grabbed a whole bunch of them and made a big fat deposit. Let me show you that. So if I go to plus new, I say, well, I'm ready to go to the bank today. I got to do a bank deposit. And so I think there's Susie Jones, 4876, $54. And so I want to grab what else I'm taking to the bank. So we'll grab this Friedman Sporting Goods. And so I'm going to do a deposit today at the bank for $441. So I've got to get it in the register as $441 because that's what's going to come through the bank. It's going to say, you did a deposit of $441. And so I've got to get it in my register, my checking register, as that figure. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I think so.
Decorator, I sell items and services. So everything has got to be set up in your products and services. So when I go over here and I go to the master gear, here is where I can see my products and services. There's other ways I can click on that product and services right there. But under the master gear, this is where your chart of accounts is. And under list is where your products and services are. So when I go and look at my products and services, I see under the category of A, I see painting. And I can cut things off of here. Like if I don't need SKU and I don't need cost and I don't need quantity on hand, I could go to the baby gear. That's the thing about it. People want to think about these products and services. This is mostly for you making money. Now, it is possible that you could set this painting up as a two-sided item. You could do that. So that's not normally the way that I work. Basically, my products and services are just making money. But I'm going to show you a two-sided item, though. But I'm going to turn on the income account. I'm going to turn off the SKU. I want my sales description. That's the wording that's going to pop on your invoice. I do want my sales price, but I don't want my cost I do want to know if it's taxable. I don't want to know about quantity on hand because I'm not getting into inventory. So I don't need to know about that. And I also don't need to know about reorder point. So now I've got my whole list set up here. And so then that way you can kind of you could monitor it and look and see exactly is everything set up exactly right. So the
Yeah.
painting, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Larry Ackley. I'm the coffee company on your call. You've got a column there for sales price. We only have about 14 particular products we sell. We got 7 origins of coffee, and they can be sold either bulk or 12-ounce bags. But we have a different price for different kinds of organizations. If we sell to a church or another wholesale buyer, we have a lower price for either of those kinds of bags than for a retail customer.
All right, this is what you want to do is you want to set up your categories. You know, these are the 12-ounce retail price, and then have another category that says church, and then you have a 12-ounce coffee that's a different price, correct?
Well, yeah, but it could be more than 2 different prices. So that's, if you've got 5 different kinds of customers and 8 kinds of products and 2 different size bags, that comes out to a whole lot of products.
Well, no, that's no problem. You can have as many products as you want. That's no problem. It's going to really help you because you're going to be able to see under wholesale, you're going to see that coffee and that coffee and that coffee and that coffee, and you're going to know exactly how much you're selling each one of those coffees for. So you could come to your master products and service list and you can kind of just review, oh, we probably need to bump up the price on that, you know?
Do I have to make out invoices using products that way?
You don't have to. You don't have to. You could have everything just going into coffee sales on your P&L report, you know.
Okay.
So like if I was going to go here, and so first thing I would probably want to do is I would want to go and set up a category. So under more, I'm going to go category, and I'm going to create a new category called retail. Right? Is that what you have? Like retail and
Sure,
then churches get a better deal?
Yeah.
Okay. Rachel, you raised your hand?
I did want to emphasize that though you're setting this up, they are customizable on your sales receipts and
Yeah.
invoices. So it's not set in stone.
That's correct. What pops on the invoice is just a starting point. You could change your figures, you know.
Okay.
And but you probably, you know, I would say that I would try to I would set up a category called retail. And then so here's my category called retail. But then I want to set up a product under retail. So I would set it up as coffee would be a non-inventory because it is a thing.
Right.
Set it up as a non-inventory. And so what is it? We'll just say coffee 12-ounce.
12-ounce, sure. Yep.
Coffee 12-ounce.
Yep.
Okay. OZ. Okay. OZ. Okay. And I'm going to set it under my category of retail.
Okay.
And then this can be any 12-ounce coffee, any wording you want, but that's what's going to pop on the invoice.
Yeah.
It just pops on the invoice. You can change it on the fly, no problem.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this 12-ounce coffee, how much do you want to sell it for?
$11.
$11. Okay. Now I'm gonna hit an income account, but you know, do I want to be generalized or do I want to get detailed? You know, probably more generalized. And so I could use that sell a product income, which is an income account. Okay. And then is it taxable? And so we're going to say it's not taxable. So, and that's very important. You want to be sure and turn that off. So you want to edit the sales tax. And I usually just come down to the bottom and say it is non-taxable and hit done. Okay.
Can that be location by location? If it's taxable, if we sell it over the internet to a
Well,
customer?
what's going to tell it
York?
is your customers. You can flag customers. Are they taxable customers or are they non-taxable customers?
Okay,
So that's more in the customer. You know, is the
Okay.
customer a taxable customer or a non-taxable customer?
okay.
So I'm going to hit save and close. Okay, so now I have it down here, coffee 12 ounce. And then I maybe want to create another category. Would you want to call your other category churches or would you want to call it
Wholesale.
wholesale? Okay, so I'm going to set up a new category called wholesale and hit save on that. And so then I would set up my, now where's my, oh yeah, I got to go back to my products and services. Start to say, where's my coffee at? But there's my coffee under retail. And then now I have another category called wholesale. I should have. Let me refresh my QBO. Is that making sense?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. And so then you could, I don't know where my wholesale went. Anyway, so let's just move on then if we kind of got that together.
Thank you.
Probably should be what you track your sales as a company. So the decorator that was selling items and services. So everything that you want to appear on your invoice or your sales receipt has to be set up in your products and services. And so you just go through and you just basically tell it what income account. That's part of the process of setting up this 12-ounce coffee, is that we had to say where I want it to show up as an income account. Now, some people, they don't even use invoices or sales receipts. So definitely like maybe Square Income, that maybe when they just set up a rule, when the bank feeds happen, then they see money coming in and the description says Square, they just want to drop it into an income account called Square Income. Because these products and services, they're really just directing it to somewhere on the P&L report. If you don't need to know the person's name, the customer's name, you don't even have to use invoices and sales receipt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is
Does
what we do. Yeah.
Does anybody else want to ask any questions about selling something? Good idea, Rachel. If you're selling a lot of sales tax items, that you might consider using a software called Avalara. Avalara. I hear that's really good, but hopefully I try to stay out of sales tax.
There's
So
also
this-
one called A2X that's really good as well.
A2X, the letter A, the number 2, and the letter X. There's a lot of ways to bring in e-commerce using like WebGility or A2X. I think there's some more also. I can't think of them. So that is basically selling things. And then you've got to pay things. You've got to pay people. And so you could go to the plus new, go to the enter the work, go do the work. Do I want to enter the bill and then pay the bill? Or do I just want to write a check or record an expense? A check's a check and everything else is an expense. But this would be under the vendors because this is where you're paying people. And so if you enter a bill, then you would want to go and pay a bill, because if I go, let's say Duke Energy, so that's an energy company around here. I'm going to set Duke Energy up as a vendor. Maybe they just draft it out every month, so I don't need their mailing address or anything. So I'm just going to hit save. And then I'm going to come down here and put a category on here. So if I would use the category of utilities, Now, if I wanted to have sub accounts under utilities, the way that's set up right here, they've got a gas and electric and a telephone. So I'm just going to act like gas and electric's not here. So I'm going to create a category called electric, ELECTRIC. And on the fly, I hit add new. I'm going to set this up. This is you're talking about your chart of accounts. And we talked a lot last week about the chart of accounts. All of these are balance sheet accounts. All of these are balance sheet accounts. Down here are where your P&L accounts are. Your income minus your cost of goods sold minus your expense. And so anything that you buy, you would want to set that up as a cost of goods sold account. So you had to go buy that coffee so you could see the income from selling the coffee, your minus your cost of goods sold, and that is your direct cost to you making the money. So then you're left with a figure. Then you got to take out all your expenses, like all your overhead. So we're going to set up an expense account. And then the detailed type is not very serious. Just find the most appropriate. And so there is probably one called utilities. Electric, and I'm going to set electric as a sub account under utilities. And hit save and close. So now I'm going to say, well, the electric bill was $100. So now I'm just putting the bill out in the system. Now you've got to have the essentials version to even use accounts payable. To even be able to enter the bills and then turn around and pay bills, you've got to have the essentials version. But once you have saved that, so when I go to do the work, when I go to pay bills, I'll see all the bills that we have entered. And so Duke Energy was entered right there. I didn't take the time to put the actual due date, but then I would go and pay the bill. So I grab that, and then I'm going to get this schedule payment. Let's see. I don't usually do this. Let me just hit save here and see what happens. Save Duke Energy. Oh, payment account. So you got to choose, I'm going to pay it out of my MasterCard, or am I going to pay it out of my checking account? Okay, Duke Energy. And that schedule payment always throws me off there. I'm just going to save and print or save and close. Okay, so that should do it right there. So now when I go back to pay bills, that's going to be gone. When I go to pay bills, Duke Energy's gone. If I go over to my register, go back to my chart of accounts, and I go view my register, then that Duke Energy is sitting out there as a bill payment. So writing a check and doing a bill payment is both paying the bill. Now, if you don't have the essentials version and you just got the online version, you just don't have that feature. Yours is not going to show where you could enter the bill. You would just either write an expense or write a check.
Jeff,
Yes?
just a quick question. What just happened when you said I wanted to pay that check? Obviously, you didn't write a check. So is that an electronic ACH transfer or something?
Yeah, that was just recording it. Like maybe I've got it set up for draft. Now, if I had it set up for draft, then I probably wouldn't go do the work. If I'm going to write a check, write a real check to them, I would do the work so that it's in the queue, it's in the register, so that when they cash that check, it comes through. But if you've got it set to auto draft, I would not do the work. I would just, the day that it bank feeds into your QuickBooks, teach it a rule that if you see Duke Energy in the bank detail area, I want you to call it paying the vendor of Duke Energy and categorizing it into utilities electric.
Okay.
So like when you pay your power bill, do they draft it or do you write a check?
Just physically write a check.
You write a check. Okay, so that means you've got to go do the work and you want to do the work, even if you're handwriting it. The best thing would be to buy computer checks and just create the check in QuickBooks and print it out of QuickBooks because you want to go ahead and do it because if you don't do the work, when it comes to the bank, then you would have to record it. And so it would work out a lot better for you to go ahead and record the check into the register. Because on the bank transactions, when you go to the bank transactions, so this is like everything that has come through the bank, and if I see a payment out here, let's see if I see a check payment. Here's a check right here. So it says the work's already been done because it says I see a match in your register for 1808 on 310, and it's check number 2. So if I would go and look in my register, check number 1808 on 3-2. Well, I thought I had it. Did I? Right. It said I see a match, so it's got to be here. So let me sort by payment. 1808 on 310. So I had done the work. I had went out here and I had wrote the check. I said, I went to the Plus New. I said, I want to write a check. I'm writing the check in the mahogany mugs. It's coming out of my checking account. Even though I'm handwriting it, I want to record it here.
Right.
And then I'm saying I want to categorize it into an expense account called office expenses. So it's in the register. So when they cash that check and it comes through the bank feeds, it'll say, I see a match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Great. So does anybody have any questions about paying people? Okay. So the really the important thing that I would say is that when you get the money, that you deposit it the right way, because you need it to end up in your register the right way, because I think I might have hit on this last week that we don't see any C's and symbols, because next week we're going to talk about bank feeds. And when the bank feeds come through, that's when I'm going to start seeing C's and symbols. When I go over to the bank transactions, if it's made it all the way to the register, it's going to say, hey, I see a deposit over here for $868.15, and the deposit is in the register because it says I see a match and it's dated 3/16. So before I hit match on it, I just want to go and show it to you. So on 3/16, 868.15. So I'm going to go to 3/16. There it is. There's my deposit. So I had done the work. When I go here on my deposit, if I edit that, it shows that I had received payments. I had dropped it into this area called undeposited funds, and then I was ready to bill the deposit. So I grabbed everything that I was ready to go to the bank that day with. So that's why it's real important when you receive payments on Amy's Bird Sanctuary that you didn't drop it straight into the checking account. You dropped it into undeposited funds. And the reason you did that is because you weren't mobile depositing or you weren't running to the bank with just that one check. You were just holding all those checks on your desk, and then you needed to put all those checks together and to make one big deposit. And so that's what this deposit is where I am grabbing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 checks together and making a deposit. Now, in this example right here, what it's showing me, I had grabbed those 5 checks, and those 5 checks totaled up to 1,068, but I wanted to keep $200 cash money, or I wanted to park $200 into my savings bank. So here is my savings bank. And so I'm really going to the bank with a deposit of $868.15. That's one thing about this sample company. They just demo so many different things that it can really make it hard to explain to someone that's like brand new. Does is it making sense? I mean, we have quite a few people in here that I know you already use QuickBooks, but for people that are brand new, is it making sense to you about the flow of the work? Nobody. All right, Larry says yes. Go ahead. Somebody else unmute and say something to me. Go ahead, Merle. Go ahead.
I tried to get you in between subjects because
Sorry.
beginning you explained about right-clicking on the left side of the screen to open up another tab.
Yep.
Okay, so you can actually open up multiple tabs and have them at the same time.
Yep. So
And
I could
what's
use.
the purpose of even having Right Tool? Where, I mean, is QuickBooks doing the same thing that Right Tool offers?
So are you using Right Tool?
Very little, because my mind moves so fast. I mean, I would never tabulate in that left column all these separate items. I know
Well-
where vendors are, I know where, but that's just how my mind works.
Yeah,
You know
and
how
I
they
guess
used to have the picture? I would never have the picture. It would drive me absolutely nuts.
yeah, so this is instead of having Right Tool is a Chrome extension that you can use. There's a free version and then there's a pro
Yes,
version.
I have the
And
free.
if people are brand new, I would say don't even think about that.
Okay.
It's really for accountants to maneuver around quick, because with Right Tools, you could set up all your favorite tabs, and with one click, it would open like 10 tabs up top. And you would have them in the same order all the time. But the easiest thing to do is just to right click. I can either right click or I can drag. If I want to have my invoices up here, I can just drag it. And this is my invoices tab. So it just comes really handy that we could say, well, here I want to see my invoices, but then I want to jump back over here and look at my customers. I mean, and then I want to jump into my bank transactions. So it's and sometimes you get lost and you just say, well, I need to close all these tabs and start fresh because I'm getting confused myself.
Well, what I like about this is your procedures for different clients are all different, you know? So
Yep.
why bother to have Right Tool, which is going to open everything all at once, and it's going to be the same for every client, whereas this, you just right click and you'll get exactly what you want for a particular client. I
And
really
you'll
like
notice on my, so I went into an incognito window so that we're not even seeing Right Tool. Because if I have Right Tool, it'd be over here on the right-hand side. And
Yeah.
so I went in incognito so that it's not, because for me, I have to stay away from Right Tools because I teach. And so most people are not going to have that added thing. And so, so I want to do it old school way, where you got to grab it from the left navigation. Well,
I like that
it's
also. Thank
it's
you.
2:00, and I understand. I'm sorry we were about 15 minutes late, but if you don't need to leave and you want to ask a question, I would be glad to sit around and answer some questions. Can I have more than one company in QuickBooks Online? You cannot. In desktop, you could, but in QuickBooks Online, for every EIN, you've got to have a different subscription.
However, if you have QuickBooks Online Advanced, you do get a discount on each additional online file.
Yeah, if you need multiple, contact me or contact somebody that's a QuickBooks solution provider, and we can go through our Intuit rep and we can maybe get you a discount. I've heard that if you pay full price for the first one, that you might get the second one for half price. Okay. All right, well, I guess I'll turn it back over to Rachel or Kimberly one.
Hey, Jeff,
Okay. Go ahead,
Go
Larry.
ahead, Larry.
sorry, since there's just a small number of us now, you can keep this answer short, but um, we are a small nonprofit, but we've been operating for 5 years. And my bookkeeper just had to resign completely as soon as she finished her end of the year paperwork. I have no accounting experience, and I've inherited all of this. We have a temporary accountant who took care of our one part-time employee. But if I've got to transfer all the responsibility to somebody else, we have somebody volunteering to pick up. What do I need to do that handoff to
Well,
somebody else? I know that's a
So,
broad.
so that person that's gonna fill in or help out with volunteer, do they already know QuickBooks?
Yes.
Okay, QuickBooks Online?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, then they should be able to just jump right in. And, you know, the most important thing is you've got to reconcile every bank statement, every bank and credit card statement. They've got to be reconciled. And so that's
Okay.
where all these, once they get into the register, they're all going to have C's and green symbols. But when you reconcile it, all those C's turn to R's. And
Okay.
you've got to make sure there's nothing left, because everything that has made it all the way to the register made
Okay.
financial reports, and you don't want any junk sitting in your register. So all those C's and green symbols should turn to R's and green symbols.
So every
And
bank statement and every what did you say?
all the C's that, you know, in your register, and once everything, when it clears the bank, it's going to come over here in the register, and it's going to say a C and a green symbol here. You know, well, I'm not even in the register, I'm in the bank feed. So let me match this one, this $75. I'm going to hit match. Okay. So now if I go over to the register, and I'm going to just refresh my QBO. Sometimes it takes it a second to catch up. So I should see a C and a green symbol. And so when you start the reconcile up, and that will be up here at the top, when you start the reconcile up, it'll change all the C's to R's. And so you don't want to have anything hung out here in your register that does not have an R and a green symbol. If you do have something, you want to understand why it's there, because there is some circumstances when maybe you don't have a bank feed come correctly through.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And credit card statements was the other.
Yes, all credit card and all bank accounts.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I hope everybody will come back next week, and we will talk about bank transactions. And that's my favorite topic. And I will teach you some little tips on that are just really great. And then we'll eventually get to where we reconcile the bank statement. So I'll turn it back over to you, Kimberly.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for all putting up with all the hiccups at the beginning. We will be sending out a new invite from Rachel on our behalf. And yes, Rachel, thank you. But what I need is that form filled out, because we are auditing the classes to see how well our instructors are doing, getting positive feedback, and also getting your email address so that we are able to send you the ongoing links. We know Jeff has been getting some great reviews. His attention to detail is meticulous. I actually have learned stuff as well. Jeff, I find it amazing what you're doing. Yes, you have found your calling. So with that being said, please, everybody, if you find somebody not having a very good day, just sprinkle a little bit of sunshine on them. You never know what that effect might bring. And remember, every obstacle you have it within you to overcome that. You are strong, you are successful, and you are all wonderful people. Thank you so much for attending today. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Hey, Kimberly,
Yes, sir.
Kimberly,
Yes, sir.
anybody that hasn't bought Alicia Katz Pollock's book, I would
Correct.
recommend it because it's about, I think about $38 and you
Right.
can get it on Amazon. Danny just put a link in the chat, but that
Thank you.
book is just really excellent. And
I'm sorry,
she
mine's on the floor.
and she is so the link's in the chat now, and that was worth $38. I bought many a manual, QuickBooks manual in my life. And
Correct.
that is a really great price and a great information. So
And that
check
one
out.
that is the book he is using for his curriculum. So you could get it and actually follow along with it, and it is on Amazon. Also, once you get it, leave a review because that's the best thing. Another thing I would like if everybody could do for me is make a comment on the page, on the feed of the group that you came from or whatever. I'm sure you're both members of all three or at least a couple. Put it on some comment on there about the mastermind or just something about your day or about the industry or about anything. I heard somebody selling cards that does a card shop. Put that on there. Just mention something fun and exciting. So that's all I ask because that keeps our groups active and it keeps them entertained. So with that being said, I'm stopping the recording now and I want everybody again to have a wonderful day.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.